Welcome back to another episode of DB Unscripted. I'm your host, Justin Valleyjoe, Communications and Marketing Assistant with the City of Daytona Beach. Now, for today's episode, I have the guy who is behind all of the work that goes into making sure a lot of our landmarks, parks, and facilities are up to first-class standard. And today's guest is going to be Mark Veenstra. He is one of our project managers in our technical services division with the Public Works Department. So Mark, welcome to the show.
Hey, glad to be here.
All right, so let's just talk a little bit about your background and how did you come into becoming one of the project managers?
Yeah, so I'm originally from Iowa, born and raised there. Graduated from Iowa State University in civil engineering. So after that, for a long period of time, I was in engineering consulting, working for public entities, both in North Carolina and then down here in Florida. Moved to Daytona Beach there in 1996. And one of our main clients was actually the city of Daytona Beach. So even before I came to work for the city, I did a lot of work for the city, knew a lot of the staff, and was very comfortable working with them. They're always great to work with. So around 2017, Frank Van Pelt, the technical services director at that time, came to me and said, we got a job opening for a project manager. Would you be interested? And at that time, the owners of the company I was with were retiring, and I just thought it was a good time to try and make the transition, which was very comfortable because I went from people I knew I was working with to actually physically working with them. So it was great. Yeah. So in terms of engineering, I was doing project management, bidding, design work, construction, administration on the private side, and it easily transferred over into working on the public side. Just a few different things, but a lot of the same activities.
Do you ever see yourself going back to the private side?
No, I like it. Actually, I'm doing the stuff I really like to do. Some design, a lot of into the construction, solving construction problems, keeping construction on track, those kind of things. So. Okay. Not at this stage, no.
Okay, very good. So what kind of inspired you to get into working for the Public Works Department? Like, why did you want to become a project manager, come down this route?
I guess it gets, going way back, my dad, he was originally a farmer, but then after World War II, he went on the GI Bill and became a civil engineer. So, and I'd worked part-time during high school and college, at his firm, survey crews and things like that. So it's kind of a natural transition into civil engineering and then into projects and project management and those kind of things. Mostly with public entities, very little with private entities or private development. So it's something I've been comfortable with, worked with all these years, and the opportunity to switch over was an easy transition.
So I want to do a little speed round with you, okay? We're going to have a little fun little contest going on, all right?
Great.
So what we're going to do is I have 7 questions, and you have to answer these 7 questions in 45 seconds. If you answer all the questions in 45 seconds, you win this branded hat.
Oh, pressure's on.
You see that beautiful branded hat we have? Yes.
Oh, my
so for the people listening who can't see, we have a navy blue mesh rope hat that is branded City of Daytona Beach. That is on the table for Mark to win. So
the pressure's on.
We're going to make this easy. We're going to make it fun. No gotcha questions.
Okay.
It's going to be pretty simple. All right. So I got my stopwatch on and on my Apple Watch, and we are ready to go. You ready?
Yep.
All right. Favorite Daytona Beach landmark?
The pier.
Okay. Would you rather work early mornings or late nights?
Early mornings.
Most overused phrase on a construction site?
It'll be okay. Don't worry about it.
Coffee or energy drinks?
Coffee.
Most underrated part of Public Works?
Most underrated part?
Yeah.
The people.
The people, okay. Craziest thing you have found on a job site?
It wasn't here, but a school bus buried in the ground.
Favorite piece of heavy equipment?
Ooh, backhoe.
Wow. So we are right at 45 seconds.
Oh.
Right at 45 seconds.
Tiebreaker.
So, you know what? We're going to give it to you. Here is your personal branded City of Daytona Beach hat. Congratulations, Mark.
All right.
Well earned. Well done. So, thank you for playing that speed round. I appreciate it. So, let's get back into some of the talking points and topics. What does your ideal day off look like when you're not fixing the city?
My wife and I, we spent a lot of time up in the Great Smoky Mountains, hiking and things like that.
So you're an outdoors type of guy?
Yeah. Outdoors kind of guy. So the ideal one was we like to schedule hikes all the way up to Mount LeConte, which is one of the highest peaks in the Smoky Mountains. They have a little lodge up there you can stay overnight. So hiking all the way up there, staying overnight and doing some of the hiking way at the top of the world up there is maybe an ideal way to spend my day off.
Okay, nice. What about when you're just here in Daytona Beach?
I'm an avid tennis player.
Okay.
Played since I was like 12 years old.
That's interesting because you guys just worked on a project with our tennis center. So.
Oh yeah, ongoing. You know, so that's another good thing. I play out there, and I get to improve the play. So I get to hear back from some of the people I play with. You know.
Awesome. So let's talk a little bit about, with technical services, the process from one of the projects you get from start to finish. How does a project get put on your desk, and can you take us through when it gets put on your desk all the way to when it's completed? What does that process look like?
Sure. It's a variety of things, because in public works, sometimes you have emergency things that need to be dealt with, come out of the blue. Let's just take an example of a problem with a road or something needs instant attention at our park. So that's sometimes an emergency thing you have to deal with right away. Other times they're long-term projects, like perhaps a department sees a need, let's just say a park. They want to do something at the park. They've heard back from citizens, this would be better than this. So there's an idea of wanting to do things, and then there's some planning, and oftentimes there's maybe there's a grant involved. You have to wait for that to get going. So and once that happens, the project starts rolling. Then you have to be involved in the selection of the design engineer. Is it a continuing services contract, or do you have to send out an RFP for a specialty engineer? So you go through that design process, design selection, work through the design, 30, 60, 90% design plans with all the important people, the users, the end users, getting their comment on it. So once all that's complete, you have to go through the process of getting it designed and bid through purchasing, and then the contract approved through legal and commission approval. And at that point in time, you're ready to go to construction.
There we go.
Yeah, so you got your bids, you got your contractor selected, they're under contract, and then you go to all your pre-bid meetings, and then the whole construction process, keeping tabs on the process, administering the contract, those type of things, help solve problems that come up, because especially in the older part of Daytona Beach, you're always going to find something. Like in some of the parks, the stuff you uncover, even, we did a project down on Beach Street, some of the oldest part of the city, there's just a lot of things are not as advertised.
At the moment,
So there's always something that needs to be accounted for during construction, oftentimes unanticipated. So other times you get involved, maybe not from start to finish, but a set of plans somebody else developed. Maybe they had something else they had to work on. It gets presented to you and say, okay, we have these design plans. Please take this through construction and finish.
Would you rather work on a project from start to finish, or would you rather get put in the middle?
I love the start to finish, because earlier on in my career, I designed a project and then see it all the way through construction, which is a good feeling.
I feel like that's pretty satisfying.
Yeah, it is.
So basically what you're saying in a nutshell is you can't just go out to Home Depot, buy some material, buy some tools, and then go work on a project. There's a whole process that's put in place before you can just start on a project, correct?
Yeah, there's a whole process. Obviously,
Yeah.
the city has ordinances and procedures,
And there's a reason why those are in place.
right, exactly.
Yeah.
And sometimes you get money, federal money or money from grant sources. You have to accommodate the conditions of the grant too. You have to be aware of that.
Okay. So let's talk, just a little bit about some of the projects that we have going on. I know a big one that you're working on right now is the Main Street Arch. That's an iconic landmark that has seemed to get a lot of traction from, at least in our department, when we promote it on social media and the website. There's a lot of people who have comments about it, like they're engaging with likes and different things on social media. The news has done, some of our news stations have done stories on it, and we've been tracking the progress of it. And a lot of people are really happy to see that it's being restored in the condition that it's turning into. So let's talk a little bit about that project.
Yeah, that one was a little interesting the way it started. I was actually out. Another one of my kind of areas is the pier. All the hurricane repairs kind of fallen on,
Which is
in my silo.
Pretty busy. Yeah.
Yeah. So we were actually looking. The city engineer Jim Nelson and myself were out with a structural engineer looking at the pier, and we were walking back through the walkway under the arch, and we just kind of noticed like cracking, and like we hadn't seen that before. And so that involved us looking a lot closer, and the more we looked, the more we saw things. And so we actually got our structural engineer to go out and kind of look at it. And initially it was just we're going to repair the cracks, seal the cracks, new masonry, replace stones that are perhaps loose. That was the initial part and the initial contract. Once they got into that and started removing stones, they discovered a lot more decay and damage that need to be addressed.
Yeah.
So just to back up a little bit, I believe the pier was built around 1925, 1926, the new pier, and the arch came later. I think in the early 30s or late 29.
So that's still almost 100 years old.
That's correct. And the pier itself, structure, was built, the inside of the arch, there's some large steel beams that go across that support the arch, and they're resting on concrete columns.
Gotcha.
Around 2009, there was a project to replace the beams in the middle. They did not replace the beams on the outside. There's 4 beams. And when we got removing the stone, we discovered those beams were in bad condition.
I can only imagine being on the ocean what almost 100 years could do to those beams.
That's right. And then as we got removing more stone, we discovered some of the columns they were resting on. You could literally poke your finger in and flick concrete and the rebar away.
That's crazy.
It had lasted that long. So it kind of morphed in the middle of the project. Another thing, you have to account for unknown conditions from a simple...
Right, the more you dig, the more layers you peel back.
That's
the
right.
more things you guys are finding.
So we had to get the structural engineer involved and take a closer look at the whole structure combined. And so it morphed into a little bit bigger project. And that's what they're trying to finish now. They're just came from there. They're taking the scaffolding off the east side now.
That's awesome. So is the east side pretty much finished?
Pretty
right
much done. There's some little work from top, but they're moving the scaffold to the east side to get that really going right now. So that's kind of how that one developed, just by observation and it's chance.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you guys discovered discovered the issues there, because that's one. I think that's one part of Beachside that has one of our it's one of our iconic landmarks that people care about. When we first notified the public that this project's going under construction, there was a lot of people who talked about memories of walking over it, or when they visit Daytona, that's one of the things they go see. And, and people used to drive on the beach a long time ago, and they would go under the arch. So it is something that I think a lot of residents resonate with. So to see the condition that it's in now, especially with like the east side, how it's finished, it's like you guys just brought that thing back to life, and so it's pretty cool.
Yeah, and we it's coquina stone, quarried and cut. We had a whole cutting operation. All the arches are handcrafted.
That is crazy.
It's there's really
I can't imagine how difficult that has to be.
There's a lot of art to that. Yeah, it's not a pre-made product.
This is real coquina.
Yeah, if you'd seen
cut.
Earlier on, they were in the Harvey parking lot cutting it. Yeah. Just a big piles of coquina right out of the ground from St. Augustine.
Wow.
And they had to shape everything they did.
Wow. And to see the east side in the condition that it is now, I mean, I can only imagine what the west portion is going to look like when it's finished. So
looking forward to seeing that. Yeah,
I can't wait. Yeah, and that's supposed to be sometime this summer, correct? When it should be finished.
It'll be late summer.
Yeah, and it's going to be open back up for the public to walk over.
Right. We have railing. We got to fix up the underside of the arch with patching and stucco and painting, new railing. And we're going to kind of reseal and a new concrete coating on the top part. So.
Cool. Yeah, just to make sure that it can last, another 100
years. Try and cut
right?
down on water penetration.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So let's talk about another project that you had the opportunity of overseeing, and I don't know if you were aware, but Daisy Stocking Park recently won an award with Castle Bay Designs. So
I
congratulations!
think I just saw that.
Yes.
I didn't do the design, but I just took.
Hey,
that's
you were
another
still
one.
with that project. You were
right.
still overseeing that project, and that park has completely. It's a full 180. The transformation. I mean, it looks so. It doesn't just look better, but it flows better, way better than what it did before. So that's another project that I think deserves, an explanation about how we got from what it was to where it is now.
Yeah, I wasn't involved in the design, but we worked with Castle Bay Design Group.
Yeah.
Who won the award,
yeah.
right? And previously they had the stage and there was some playground equipment, but there wasn't a lot of landscaping or anything going on.
It was just like a field. Yeah.
Yeah. And so the project involved really putting paths in there that flow a lot better, extensive landscaping, an irrigation system, new lighting all throughout. And then the stage, in front of the stage, really was not a place you could sit if the sun was out. There's no shade.
Right.
So the large.
There's just some benches that rows of benches, and you're kind of just baking out there in the heat.
Yeah. So now there's an extensive shade structure, which is massive. The footers on that were very impressive.
Yeah.
Like a quarter of the size of this room we're sitting on.
Yeah.
So that really is a showcase with all the lighting, new playground equipment, all new playground equipment there. Resurfaced the parking lot, and we improved the flow all the way out to Mary McLeod Bethune Boulevard, widening that out.
There's a nice gateway.
Nice gateway over there. Yeah. So. Yeah, that took about approximately a year to do all that. But
what I really like about that park too is it tells the story of Daisy Stocking, the history of the park.
Exactly.
Some people might not know who Daisy Stocking is, and that timeline that you guys put in there, basically where people can just walk around the seating area, where the shade structure is, and they can read, and learn all about Daisy Stocking. I think is pretty cool.
Yeah, those plaques on that, it just tells the whole story, and there's a timeline. It's
so
really
people
cool.
can know now. Okay, there's a lot of parks that are named after people, but a lot of people they might not know, or even visitors who are coming to Daytona Beach, or students from Bethune-Cookman who are coming from out of state, and they don't know who Daisy Stocking is, but they go to the park and they might catch a concert or something going on over there, but now they can know about who the park's named after. So I really like that feature that you guys added in there.
Yeah, that was a cool feature.
Yeah, and I've been to the park a few times since it's reopened, which I believe was a couple years ago, and so the last time I was there was for the Crab and Seafood Festival. Yeah. And the shade structure, originally I was like, I wonder how much shade that's actually going to provide. But it actually provided a good amount of shade in the middle of the day.
Yeah.
So that was also really, that's another cool feature that I like that was added into the park too. So.
Yeah, and there were some sculpture items like musical notes that are an honor to Daisy Stocking's interest.
We had the mirror on the bathroom too that I like as well. It brings some life I think, to it. So I like a lot of the stuff that you guys added there. So that's a project I think that was much needed. really for that community too.
The product, I mean, it ended up looking really, really nice.
Yeah, so congratulations on that. I'm sure that's one of those satisfying projects that you're like,
good one.
From start to finish, and now it's completed, and the community can enjoy that park. So let's talk about another project too, the Dickerson Recreation Complex.
Sure.
That was another project that was like a full 180. That we had the community center. It needed a little bit of polishing and just to be refreshed, but you guys added a ton of different amenities outside. I think that really changed the personality of that park and that complex.
Yeah, and that, as many people remember, that was an old school site.
Right.
So it wasn't like built as a park to be a park. Mm-hmm. So that was one though that started right after I came to work here. There was ideas of trying to do something, make the traffic flow better. Mm-hmm. And if you remember, there was an old handball or racquetball court in the middle of it, just a tall one. Mm-hmm. They kind of broke up the park. The staff couldn't really see to the other side of the park. They couldn't see what's going on at Campbell, the pool.
Yeah.
So that was something they wanted to kind of change. Mm-hmm. And there was a tennis court there that I don't think they'd programmed, or the use just wasn't there for that.
Right.
There was an older playground there that needed updating. So it started with just some concepts to get some grant money. Mm-hmm. And then there was a little bit more planning once the grant money was in place about what they wanted it to do. Then we had to hire a consultant, mm-hmm. a designer to get on board. So we went through the design process, the bidding, the building. So mm-hmm. that was 3, 4, 5, 6 years in total.
It's a process, but to see what it looks like now, it's worth it.
Yeah, that was, we added a new playground. Mm-hmm. We improved the parking, added some more access points there, added parking, added a nice new basketball court with lights there.
And I love that because I'm a basketball freak.
Yeah.
And to see how many basketball courts we have in Daytona Beach is awesome. It's something I wish that, and not just a court, but I mean, those are really nice courts between the asphalt that we have, the hoops, it's regulation size. I wish I had that when I was a kid.
Yeah.
I'm like, man, I grew up and we had the old Powell Center and a few basketball courts. Derbyshire was kind of like the place where people would go play, and to see what we have now as far as ability to play basketball, especially at Dickerson, I'm like, yeah, that's pretty cool. I wish I had that when I was a kid.
Yeah, I thought that turned out well. Mm-hmm. We added a new playground with some seating areas, mm-hmm. a much smaller shade structure there, and then I think the landscaping, we added irrigation and landscaping. I think that turned out well. That always
the beautification of it is great, and you guys did some work at Dr. James Huger Park as well. You added some connectivity there and some landscaping that looks really nice.
Yeah, the extensive landscaping, some benches, put in some walkways there. Mm-hmm. So that was
it pretty much flows all the way from, at least in my opinion, it flows really well all the way from MLK and Orange Avenue all the way up to the Campbell Aquatic Center, which wasn't really like that before.
No, and that was the thought. They wanted to improve usage mm-hmm. of the pool mm-hmm. and make it easier to get there. Mm-hmm. Kind of another aspect was we add more parking over there, easier to get to for the pool. So hopefully, and I know they've been trying to do some improvements in terms of the walkway to get to the park. So off of MLK Boulevard.
Yeah, that's it truly is now a complex. I mean, before it used to just be the Dickerson Community Center, but now it is really a complex because it connects 3 parks, a community center, and we have a ton of amenities now that are being used by the public. I go out there and I see there's kids who are, or when I drive by on the way from work, especially now in the summer, you see kids playing basketball, you see kids on the playground, and so the community's definitely getting good use out of it.
Yeah, that certainly was the goal of the whole mm-hmm. project.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk a little bit about some challenges that you guys might face with maintaining some of our infrastructure. What are some of the challenges that you guys face?
Well, some of the infrastructure's been around a while, so that requires constant maintaining. Mm-hmm. Also, it's a tough climate in Florida. The heat the sun, the UV breaks down products, plastic products, asphalt, those type of things. Heat's never a good thing for infrastructure. So plus, a type of salty condition, especially over beachside.
Right.
Those projects over there.
I feel like the pier is just one of those projects that you're always going to be busy with.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Again, it's been there since 1925.
Right. It's pretty impressive that it's actually lasted 100 years. I know we're celebrating 100 years this year.
Yeah, and there are, I've probably seen more of the underside and structure of the pier than probably anybody, because we've done 4, 5, 6 projects lately there, replacing the pilings, the support structure. But there are still, and you can tell, original pieces.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, just you can look at the connections.
I mean, that's history.
Yeah. But I think the more, unfortunately, the more things we've replaced, so now there's new parts. That the last hurricane we had, the very far end of the fishing pier always took a beating. But last hurricane we had that came through, it stood up really well. So
that's good, yeah.
Yeah.
So the quality of the replacement is good, I would say, right?
Yeah, a lot of what you don't see on some of the pilings, especially, is right at the mud line or where the ocean bed is. The piling's neck down. You just can't see that.
Okay, yeah.
And those, if it's supposed to be a 12-inch pile and it's really neck down to a 4-inch pile, if it gets hit by a wave, and if you've ever been out there during storms, there's some massive waves breaking over the end of the pier.
I don't think I would want to be out on the pier during a storm.
They'll snap off, and sometimes they just wash away. Sometimes they dangle there and act like wrecking balls. So it's but like anything, you can repair it, but you still have, if say it was a car built in 1926, you can repair it and upkeep it, but it was still a 1926 car.
Yeah. So it requires some maintenance.
Yeah, but the last storm was much better than the previous storms. So maybe we're making progress there.
Yeah, for sure. So with you being a tennis guy, see, I didn't know that before. With you being a tennis guy, when it came to doing the work that you guys did at the tennis center, which it featured resurfacing all the courts, right, and adding new fencing.
Yeah, we had to replace the fencing that were damaged by, I think, Nicole.
So did you enjoy that project more than the other projects that you oversee? Just because you're a tennis guy?
It's a mixed bag. Yeah, I enjoyed doing it, but then I didn't enjoy hearing about from some of the players, like, why are these courts down? Those type of things.
Oh, I don't know, man. Yeah, I have no idea.
So, I think, we're making progress out there. It really looked nice. New fencing, new resurfacing, so that was nice.
Yeah. Is there anything else that you guys are planning to do out there at the tennis
think
center?
There's, our city architect's looking at something on the, there's a deck outside on the
nice.
The pro shop, and there's some drainage issues we still have to address out there that are, a smaller type project, but things that they want to address.
Okay, cool. So let's talk about some other future projects. Like, what do you have coming up with the technical services, and any other projects you're going to be working on in the future?
On the immediate horizon, I mentioned a project at the pier where we saw the arch. There's a project to there's some concrete foundations. Many people remember there was old amusement rides on the pier, the Space Needle, and then there was also chairlifts that went up over top.
I remember the chairlift when I was a kid. Yeah, that went all the way out and back.
Yeah, and so over the years, the base of the old Space Needle, the one with the mural on, between that and the base of the chairlifts was a vault that contained electrical or hydraulic components for, I think, the Space Needle ride, and that has decayed badly over the years.
I can imagine, yeah.
So part of the project is to get rid of that and bolster up the support, and we'll have to rebuild that area of the pier. Now, the Space Needle base with the mural on it stays. We're not getting rid of that. So, but there's some areas we have to get in there and kind of reconfigure, get rid of that concrete as it's decaying. As you can imagine, it's like not the ideal. But we're also going to be removing the white siding between Boardwalk and Joe's Crab Shack. It wasn't always there. I've looked at historic photos, and in the 50s and maybe into the early 60s, it was not there. It looked more like the fishing end of the pier where you had your standard open rail that you see on most docks and piers. And the problem with that siding now is it's very heavy. Some of it's 2 layers of 3/4 inch plywood.
Oh wow, yeah.
And you can imagine what happens during a hurricane. There's a heck of a lot of wind load put on the pier, and the pier's getting a little older. A lot of it also retains moisture, tends to lead to a certain amount of rot. So that's all going to be removed and new open railing put in.
Nice.
Plus some additional lighting will be turtle-friendly lighting.
Good,
there.
yeah.
So that's a project that's we're trying to get that permitted and out to bids. Another one is the Beach Street Phase 2 project.
Oh, that's a good one, yeah.
Yeah, we'll be going from Bay Street, where Phase 1, all the way out to Michigan, just past the new condos going up out there. It'll look similar to Phase 1, be a median in the middle, lane reduction.
Is there going to be in the median? Is there going to be palm trees and landscaping?
Yeah, and lights, median lights. Yeah. It's an extension of the same look all the way down.
Nice.
Yeah. So we're still working through DOT with that. There's some federal funding involved, and so we're in the review process now.
I think the Beach Street streetscape really transformed Beach Street as a whole. I mean, it's not only is it. I enjoy driving down it, but it's really it's walkable. Between having the Esplanade and the shops and Beach Street has done a really good job at getting I love the restaurants down there. So they've done a great job, I think, at getting the restaurants, a good variety of Italian, and there's the Irish restaurant, there's Mexican, there's there's a ton of, there's Thai, you name it, they got it. So I think they did a really good job at being able to attract people down there. And now with Beach Street, the streetscape with the Phase 1 completed, I can only imagine what Phase 2 is going to do to Beach Street.
Yeah, and like if I go to a baseball game, leaving the baseball game, walk down toward Beach Street, and when you make that turn off Orange Avenue and you kind of look as you're walking your car, you go, wow, this turned out nice.
Yeah, especially the lights. Yeah, the lights that are wrapped around the palm trees now at night, it just brings more life, I think, to Beach Street. So.
Yeah, a lot of those are now LED and control, so they can change the pattern, change the light a little bit.
Yeah, so they can maybe do like red, white, and blue for
exactly.
patriotic days, and maybe like some type of Christmas colors for the Christmas season.
Yeah, that was the idea.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, very good. Any other projects that you guys have going on?
Those are big ones coming to mind. If there's a hurricane season, there'll be another pier project. So.
I can imagine.
Hopefully not.
Yeah, but, I can imagine. So do you like working more on projects that are on beach side or on the mainland side?
Well, recently, beach side has got a lot of more attention because we're still putting stuff back from, like Nicole.
Be all right.
With the design and the permitting and the, everything like that.
Well, there's probably, I'm assuming there's an extra layer of permitting when you're dealing with the beach, right?
Right. There's a lot of permits you have to work through. You got the Corps, you got the state, you got the county, and you got to be aware of the turtle season.
There's a lot of players in the game.
That's right. You just have to work through all that and make sure everybody's satisfied with what you're presenting.
Okay, very good. Is there anything else you want to add to the show?
No, I just didn't know there was a quiz earlier. That was
yeah. How to do a little pop-up speed round? Hey, but you earned the hat.
That's great.
You did
Thank
it.
you.
So
appreciate it.
Well earned, well done. So. But I appreciate you coming on the show and just giving us a inside look of the technical services division and everything that you guys do with our public works and our projects, because we see a lot of these iconic landmarks between the clock tower, the arch,
right.
Even our parks, with Daisy Stocking that we mentioned and Dickerson, and you guys do a lot of work that, we don't always see the people who are behind the reason why they look how they do, and that they are in great shape, and the pier, is able to be used for 100 years, and hopefully, for more years after 100. So I think it's important that people get to know, who the people are behind those projects. So I appreciate you coming on the show.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
All right. Well, everyone, thanks for tuning in. Please be sure to subscribe to DB Unscripted if you haven't already. We're on Apple Podcasts, we're on Spotify, YouTube. You can go to the city website by going to daytonabeach.gov/DB Unscripted. Also, you can follow us on all of our social media platforms. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Nextdoor, YouTube, LinkedIn. So be sure to follow us on social media if you haven't done so already. And also you can sign up for emergency alerts, newsletters by visiting daytonabeach.gov/subscribe. We'll see you for the next episode of DB Unscripted. Thanks for tuning in. Stay beautiful, Daytona Beach.